I am Go Ziqing, register number 4. Different speeds of reaction. What does it mean? It refers to the fact that speed of chemical reaction varies. Some examples include the rusting of iron, which takes place slowly, wood combustion, which takes place fast, and a nuclear explosion, which takes place very fast. There are two ways in which we can measure the speed of reaction in the laboratory. The first way is measuring the volume of gas produced. If one of the products in a chemical reaction is gas, we can find the speed of reaction by measuring the volume of gas produced in a certain time. For example, the reaction of dilute hydrochloric acid and marble chips. One of the products formed, carbon dioxide, is a gas. We can conduct an experiment to find the volume of gas. Refer to the setup as shown. Firstly, record the volume of carbon dioxide gas collected in the gas syringe at half-minute intervals. From the results, plot a graph of the volume of carbon dioxide against time. The gradient of the graph indicates the speed of reaction at a particular time. Thus, the larger the gradient, the higher the speed of reaction. The graph shown here is the example of the reaction between dilute hydrochloric acid and the marble chips. Speed of reaction can also be found by measuring the change in mass of a certain time. The speed of reaction between calcium carbonate and dilute hydrochloric acid can be found using this method. Since the carbon dioxide that is produced escapes as gas, there is a decrease in mass. We can also conduct an experiment for finding the speed of reaction by completing an experiment. Refer to the setup shown. Firstly, record the mass of the conical flask and its content. Release the thread and shake the conical flask to mix the marble chips and the acid. Start the stopwatch immediately. Record the mass of the conical flask and its contents at 1-minute intervals. From the results, plot a graph of the mass of the conical flask and its content against time. Since the gradient of the graph is the largest at the beginning of the reaction, the speed of the reaction is the highest. However, it decreases with time as well. When the gradient becomes 0, the speed of reaction is 0 as well.
Factors affecting the speed of reaction. There are 5 factors that affect the speed of reaction: concentration of the reactants, pressure at which the reaction occurs, which is for gaseous reactants, the particle size or surface area of the reactants, which is for solid reactants, the temperature at which the reaction occurs, and lastly, the presence of a catalyst. The first factor, concentration of the reactants. When a reaction involves solutions, the speed of reaction can be altered by changing the concentration of a reactant. When the concentration of a reactant is increased, the speed of reaction increases as well. At lower concentrations, reactant particles are spread far apart. However, at higher concentrations, there are more reactant particles in the same volume. This means that there are more reactant particles available to collide with each other, increasing frequency of collisions, and thus increasing the speed of reaction. This experiment investigates the effect of concentration of a reactant on the speed of reaction by measuring the amount of gas evolved. Repeat this experiment twice, using hydrochloric acid of different concentrations in the conical flask and magnesium ribbons as the reactants. Record the amount of gas produced at regular time intervals. From the results, plot a graph of volume of hydrogen gas produced against time to visualize the effect of concentration on speed of reaction. The second factor, pressure at which the reaction occurs for gaseous reactants. Pressure can significantly affect the speed of reaction in chemical reactions that involve gases. When the pressure of a gaseous reactant is increased, the speed of reaction is also increased, similar to increasing the concentration of a gas. At lower pressure, the particles of gaseous reactants are spread far apart. However, at higher pressure, the particles of gaseous reactants are closer together, increasing the frequency of collisions between the particles, thus quickening the speed of reaction.
When the surface area of a solid reactant is increased, the speed of the reaction increases. When a solid reactant is broken up into smaller pieces, its total surface area is increased. There are more surfaces exposed for other reactant particles to collide into. the collision between the reactant particles become more frequent. This causes an increase in the frequency of effective collision. Thus, the speed of reaction increases. We can investigate the effect of particle size on the speed of reaction by reacting a fixed concentration and volume of hydrochloric acid with large marble chips and crushed marble chips. The effect of particle size on the speed of reaction can be determined by measuring the volume of carbon dioxide gas produced at regular time intervals. The same mass of marble chips and the same concentration and volume of hydrochloric acid are used for both experiments. Therefore, the final volume of carbon dioxide produced is the same. The reaction in experiment 2 is completed in 2.5 minutes, while the reaction in experiment 1 takes 4 minutes to complete. The initial gradient of the graph for experiment 2 is larger than that for experiment 1. This shows that the speed of reaction is higher with smaller chips than with larger chips. When the temperature of a reactant is increased, the speed of reaction increases. At low temperatures, the reactant particles move slowly because they have little energy. When the temperature is increased, the reactant particles gain energy, move faster, and collide with each other more often. At higher temperatures, more particles possess energy equal to or greater than the activation energy, resulting in a higher frequency of effective collision. Therefore, the speed of reaction is higher. The most convenient reaction for investigating the effect of temperature on the speed of reaction is the reaction between a dilute acid and sodium thiosulfate solution. When dilute hydrochloric acid is added to sodium thiosulfate solution, a fine precipitate of sulfur slowly forms, and the solution becomes cloudy. The speed of this reaction can be found by determining the speed at which sulfur is precipitated. To investigate the effect of temperature on the speed of this reaction, we record the time taken for the same amount of sulfur to precipitate at different temperatures. The shorter the time taken for sulfur to precipitate, the higher the speed of reaction. The higher the temperature, the shorter the time taken for the cross to disappear from view. This means that the higher the temperature, the higher the speed of reaction. To see more clearly how the speed of reaction varies with the temperature, we can plot the result from our investigation using a different pair of axes. In our previous investigation, the speed of reaction is higher when time taken for the cross to disappear from the view is shorter. This means that the speed of reaction is inversely proportional to the time taken for the cross to disappear from view. Thus, we can plot values of 1 over time against temperature. It is the same as plotting the speed of reaction against temperature. The graph shows that the speed of reaction is higher at higher temperatures.
Effect of catalysts and enzymes on the speed of reaction. A catalyst is a substance which increases the speed of a chemical reaction and remains chemically unchanged at the end of the reaction. A catalyst has the following characteristics. Firstly, only a small amount of a catalyst is needed to speed up the reaction. Secondly, a catalyst lowers the activation energy of a reaction. Thirdly, a catalyst increases the speed but not the yield of a chemical reaction. For example, the same amount of products is formed whether a catalyst is used or not. The physical appearance of a catalyst may change at the end of the reaction, but its chemical properties remain unchanged. Next, a catalyst is not used up during the reaction. The same amount of catalyst is present at the beginning and at the end of the reaction. Next, impurities can prevent catalysts from working. We say that the catalyst is poisoned or inactivated by impurities. Lastly, a catalyst is selective in its action. This means one catalyst cannot act on or speed up all types of reactions. Different catalysts speed up different reactions. Catalysts and activation energies.
Activation energy is an energy barrier that must be overcome by the reactants before they can react. Catalysts increase the speed of reaction by providing an alternative pathway for the reaction to proceed. The catalyzed reaction has a lower activation energy than the reaction without the catalyst. The effect of catalysts on activation energies can be shown using energy profile diagrams. Notice that the activation energy of the catalyzed reaction is lower than that of the uncatalyzed reaction. For the catalyzed reaction, where the activation energy is lower, more colliding particles possess energy equal to or greater than the activation energy. The frequency of effective collisions increases, resulting in a higher rate of formation of product particles. Therefore, the speed of catalyzed reaction is higher. How can we investigate the effect of a catalyst on the speed of reaction? Consider the decomposition of hydrogen peroxide. Under normal conditions, hydrogen peroxide decomposes very slowly to give water and oxygen. We can investigate the effect of a catalyst on the speed of reaction by adding a very small amount of the catalyst manganese dioxide to hydrogen peroxide. The aim of this investigation is to investigate the effect of a catalyst on the speed of reaction. The procedure are as follows. Prepare 2 test tubes containing 10 cm³ of hydrogen peroxide. Label the test tubes A and B. Add half a spatula of manganese dioxide to the solution in test tube B. Next, place a glowing splint at the mouth of each test tube and record the observations. In this observation, when manganese dioxide is added to hydrogen peroxide in test tube B, bubbles of oxygen are quickly produced. The glowing splint is rekindled and burns brightly. This shows that manganese dioxide speeds up the decomposition of hydrogen peroxide. However, the manganese dioxide remains chemically unchanged at the end of the reaction. Thus, it is the catalyst for the reaction. Uses of catalysts in industry. Common catalysts and their uses. Iron is used to manufacture ammonia, known as the Haber process. Platinum or rhodium is used as catalytic converters. Aluminium oxide or silicon dioxide is used for the production of hydrogen in the cracking process. Enzymes, biological catalysts. Enzymes are substances that catalyze the chemical reaction in plants and animals. They are biological catalysts. The following are characteristics of enzymes. Firstly, they are proteins. Secondly, they are specific in their actions. The human body contains many different kinds of enzymes, and each enzyme catalyzes a specific chemical reaction. Amylase, for example, is the enzyme present in saliva. It catalyzes the reaction which changes starch into sugar. Thirdly, they are sensitive to temperature changes. Many enzymes operate most effectively at body temperature, for example, between 35 degrees and 40 degrees. Above or below this range, the speed of reaction decreases. If the temperature is too low, the enzymes will become inactive. When the temperature is too high, the enzymes will be denatured or destroyed, and therefore unable to catalyze the reaction. Lastly, they are sensitive to pH changes. Most enzymes have a certain range of pH at which they work best. What are the uses of enzymes in industry? Enzymes are important in industry. In the manufacture of alcoholic drinks, enzymes produced by yeast are used to catalyze the conversion of sugar or starch to ethanol. Modern detergents, also known as biological washing powders, contain enzymes. These are very effective in removing stains caused by protein-based substances such as food and blood.